But of course, you guys know me. I'm not all that bright. I can't get down in the X's and O's, right? I hear that a lot. So let's just stick with the quarterback. That's an easy one to look at. And Jake Retzlaff has had an up and down career at BYU. We talked with Jake Hatch about it yesterday, but he kind of had some moments towards the end of last season. BYU does not get to bowl eligibility. That heartbreaking loss at Oklahoma State, which was really taking one for the team for the rest of the Hateful Eight so that it wouldn't be OU UT in the Big 12 championship. So we appreciated that. But he had some of his moments then. He had a tough start to this season and had a real good game against Kansas State that really got people all on his side again. He had the t-shirt after the game that says BYU, which I think is just hilarious. But it was something of a comeback game for him and one that was kind of a weird game in terms of how the scoring broke down, but obviously a lopsided lopsided BYU victory at 38-9. He went 15-21, only threw for 150, but a couple of touchdowns, only took 2 sacks, which I know has been a problem for him, specifically last year. And so it's like all is well in Cougarland with Jake Retzlaff. And now it looks like Jake Retzlaff and the Cougars have the edge in that department at quarterback. You look at the numbers on the year and you're like, man, this is all right. This is the Jake that we wanted to see. 3-1 touchdown to pick ratio. That'll probably get better. He's thrown for almost 1,000 yards in 4 games, 9 TDs, 3 picks. He gets the car in the garage, which has been kind of an issue for BYU, or was an issue in parts of last year. Now they seem to have a confident, capable, calm quarterback under center or in the shotgun. And that last part there of describing Jake Retzlaff sounds a lot like how us Baylor people would describe Sawyer Robertson. So here Jake Retzlaff is getting a lot of the plaudits after a big win last week. And look, he deserves it. Don't get me wrong. But I'm like, I see a lot of the traits for Retzlaff as I do with Sawyer Robertson. And Kalani Sitake in the press conference last week used the term game manager for Retzlaff. And like, again, people think of this as like a negative connotation. It's really not, especially at the college game, and especially one where they've struggled to have healthy, consistent quarterback play the last few years, and the last 2 seasons anyway. And since that last Baylor matchup in September of 22, where you're the Bears, you're looking for the same thing. I think you've been disappointed at the quarterback position the last few years under Blake Shapen. It was a weird first 2 games with DeQuan Finn. There was almost as much bad as good, even in a 45-3 win against Tarleton, then the loss against Utah. And the best thing you could say about Sawyer Robertson since then, he has been cool. He has been calm. He's been collected. He's not being shooketh in the pocket. And he has looked a more confident quarterback than last year. I think that's fair to say. So I went through Retzlaff's numbers in the lopsided win against Kansas State. Sawyer Robertson doesn't complete as much of the pass, 11-21, but throws for 148, throws 2 touchdowns, only takes 1 sack, QBR just under 90. Like, okay, we're looking at pretty similar quarterbacks here. And through just 2 starts, Robertson has thrown for 463 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. And again, both have looked cool customers, game managers. And when Baylor needed to take the shots down the field, or when those shots were open anyway, Sawyer Robertson was not missing them. So I use that as a positive for Baylor fans. You know, I'm not saying Jake Retzlaff is setting the world on fire, but you knew his name coming into this week because there's been plenty of positive buzz around him for a 4-0 BYU team. I think these teams are constructed pretty similarly. Both have struggled to establish the run. They can make some plays in the passing game, but don't have like elite receiving cores. And both have good defenses who, but for 2 plays in that Colorado game, are not giving up big explosive plays. And the model quarterback that you want back there is a guy who completes a lot of his passes, doesn't put the ball in harm's way, and is a cool customer and can do something with their legs. Sawyer Robertson and Jake Retzlaff, I think, are a lot closer than people think. And it wouldn't surprise me by the end of this season if the per game numbers favored a guy like Sawyer Robertson. I think they're still trying to figure out what this offense looks like when they're taking shots. Because, we heard 25 shots down the field last week, and we didn't see that, but they weren't unsuccessful when they took those shots. And I think that says good things about Sawyer. First off, that he's not throwing the ball in harm's way, right? They didn't take as many shots because I don't think the looks were there. So second off is that he completed the ones that they had the good looks. He had a couple big time, touchdown throws of 25 plus yards. Like those are taking shots downfield. And he even had a couple of great ones along the sideline, including that unreal Katron Jackson catch that kind of got lost in the fold of such a exciting game and one that came down to the final few plays. So again, the term game manager is not a negative term. And I think that's what you've got in this game. And that's why it's going to be such a defensive struggle. We talked about that on the crossover yesterday, and it will come up again later in this show. We'll hear from Kalani Sitake about it. But there is a certain philosophy amongst both these head coaches in certainly a way around the way they run their programs. And this is a long-standing relationship between Kalani Sitake and Dave Aranda. So I want to hear from the BYU head coach and hear what he had to say about that relationship and comparing our man Dave Aranda to a true BYU legend. That's coming up.